Welcome to another video from Underrated Hardware. My name is Monero, and I hope you enjoyed this video. This video is intended as a guide to set up an eGPU with Lattepanda. It includes choosing a GPU, choosing a dock, and also how to install everything together and the features and quirks. At any point in time in the video, you can go down to the description and you will see markers for the different parts in the video as a table of contents. First off, you need to start out with the eGPU for Lattepanda. So there are lots of graphics cards to choose from, but you don't want one that's too strong or one that's too weak. And I got some recommendations here. If you go to Tom's Hardware, they have a graphics card hierarchy. They have a modern one up here, but you really don't need to use that. I like the legacy one better, personally. Now, Lattepanda can really benefit from GPUs about in this range in here. So I've tried stuff like a 780 works real well because I have that. A 1080 is up in a different class, and it's just way faster. See, it's way up there, and that just completely bottlenecks the CPU on there. So I'd say anything, I wouldn't recommend anything lower than, I'd say probably about, this would be the cutoff point. You could do a 750 or 750 Ti. But this would be kind of like a budget stuff down here. But if you go up, a good GPU would be the 1050 would work well. That would scale well with performance. You could also, you do AMD stuff, because I haven't found any GPUs this hasn't been compatible with. As far as I know, everything's worked great. There hasn't been any really bugs with compatibility with this particular one. So it's way easier than one on a laptop. So I'd say anything about this range, you can, if you have a card sitting around already, well then you can just put it in. And this is a perfect sweet performance spot right here. Okay, for eGPU docks, there are several different options. This is at eGPU.io. I happen to have the ADT R43 SG here. Now, it is quite an expensive one. Some of these have actually been added since I've been here. Like, this one is quite new. There's hardly any reviews on it, but for 30 bucks, it actually looks like a good deal. Now, like, you guys might be interested in something like, you're going to want something that's X4, because that's going to get all the bandwidth we need. And X1 would not be very good. So, you can come here, and they have lots of builds of various people have done with eGPUs, and these are the ones I'd recommend. You can find other ones besides the ones mentioned here. You'll just have to look around, and they have to be M.2 M key, because that has PCI Express X4. Now, technically, it looks like you could do an X1 AE key with that one, but that'd be quite the bandwidth bottleneck. So you can choose here. The EXP GDC Beast is a great option. They've been around for quite a while, and they've had lots of different ones. It's just I happen to get this one because it had a really good stability on it, so it wouldn't tip over a heavy GPU. So anything in here would work. You just have to, spend according to your budget and whatever works for you. This one right here is obviously quite slim, but there isn't really much in the way of there's looks like a floppy pen power connector right up there. So there's not quite much power to the GPU. While the EXP GDC Beast and this other one right here actually accept full ATX power supplies. This one requires an adapter, and that one doesn't. You can just plug it straight in. The R43SG has a 24-pin power connector, so plenty of power. And then there's also a CPU power connector you can plug into there for more power to the slot, because the slots can output up to 75 watts, and you're going to want plenty of power for that, besides power going up to the GPU itself for auxiliary power. Alright, now it's come to choosing a power supply. For a power supply, I do not recommend using some generic OEM power supply that you got from some old computer. This would be a prime example of what not to use. this only has a 20 pin power connector, it's not 24. So technically you could use it with a lot of these docks, but the extra 4 pins on there for more auxiliary power to the motherboard. That's besides like this CPU power pin connector that you're going to need for the ADT dock. Now obviously with this you're not going to get much power out of it, and so yeah, that's not a very good option. I recommend something better. Probably a lot more like this. You know, like a Cooler Master, Corsair power supply or something. Cooler Master, Corsair, Seasonic, whatever your favorite, most trusted brand is. I recommend you get a modular one because this is a lot of spaghetti. Okay, this is actually a 24 pin power connector. So there's the 20 right here, and then there's the 4 pin. So that gives us a bit of extra juice. Now, if you're going to be powering any kind of big GPU that uses quite a bit of power, you're going to want one that has quite a few watts on it, because you're going to need some 8 pins. This is a 550 watt power supply. It has 2 8-pin power connectors. They're 6s, but they adapt into 8 because, well, it splits up for compatibility reasons. And also off of this, you could also potentially run other accessories out the power supply too. So whenever the Lattepanda turns on, this is plugged into the dock, and these into the GPU, or if your GPU needs it, which usually most higher end ones do, then it'll turn on when the Lattepanda turns on. Okay, now I have pictures showing how I set everything up, and pretty much I had these because the camera would not focus. So this shows all the connections, and yeah, it's not too hard to put together. There's like one screw you have to tighten up on the Lattepanda. That's it. For this tutorial, I reset everything back to factory default settings by reinstalling Windows, and so everything should be exactly the same for you. Okay, so now I'm installing the display drivers and everything went completely smooth, so you can do a reinstall or whatever, and you don't have to pre-install any drivers for any graphics card. Now with the 1080, it works in here, it works with the 750 Ti, and it works with 780, so anything the driver is compatible with, it'll work. The Lattepanda is really easy to have an eGPU with because it disables the integrated graphics from the hardware level, and so you can, when you put a GPU in, it completely forgets about that. So you don't have to do all this laptop shenanigans like you see in a lot of these tutorials. So as you can see here, it's the middle of doing display driver. And Google Chrome right now is apparently, there we go. So here's our PCI Express stuff. I forgot which configuration it is. I think it's the 4, well, there's 10 lanes here, and 4 of them can go to the graphics card. And so with 4 of them in the graphics card, there's 1 for the Wi-Fi card, some for the flash memory. And when you do the math, you come up 1 short if you have the integrated graphics online. So that's why it disables them completely at the BIOS level. As you can see here, here's the GTX 780 in the control panel. It's installing its graphics driver. So it's pretty easy to get going on. Now if I have, doesn't really matter what GPU I have in here, as long as it's something, you know, somewhat recent, because why have an old GPU in here? Also, the Lattepanda is quite flexible. So if you wanted to make a mobile / like a stationary project, you can actually use the integrated graphics, and it's real simple. So currently I have a HDMI cable plugged into the 780. I pulled it out, and I'm going to go plug this into the HDMI of the Lattepanda. Okay, it's all the way plugged in. You can see the Lattepanda's in a standby state by the power flashing. And the only thing I have to do is turn off the power supply. The power supply is now off, which means the GPU will not be online. And there it goes. Now the fan spun a little bit, but there was just some juice in the power supply when I shut it off. So now the Lattepanda will now boot up on integrated graphics. So this could be good for a semi-portable application where you can have a screen connected to the Lattepanda for a portable thing and then plug it in as a desktop later. Pretty cool. Okay, a reboot later, and after some driver installs, the Intel HD graphics are running. See, right now the eGPU is actually all plugged in, but the power is turned off to it. And then when it's turned on, it doesn't see the eGPU because there's no power to it, and it will automatically enable Intel HD graphics. The eGPU dock also supports going into a deep sleep mode. So when the Lattepanda enters the hibernation mode from command in the operating system, it will signal to the dock and the power supply to shut off. Okay, now it's going to sleep mode, and now Windows is going to sleep. This should work with Linux too, and I haven't confirmed it yet. And now it's in a deep sleep mode, and the power status indicator in Lattepanda is strobing blue over there. So now it's going to turn back on when you hit the keyboard, and it comes right back on. Nice and easy. Okay, to transition from the integrated graphics back, it's just as simple as it was the other way around. You can just unplug the HDMI, come over here, and then go plug it into the GPU. And turn on the power supply. Then it's ready to go. And then the entire thing will fire right up. There it goes. Easy. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. Upcoming, we have a tutorial on how to install Linux on Lattepanda, and we also are going to be having a video on measuring the temperatures of the board itself, because it does run quite warm, and so we're going to have a thermal camera here, and we're going to run some benchmarks and see if we can improve those temperatures any. Well, that's it.